How do you build an 8-figure business in 2025 using influencer marketing? Today's guest has skyrocketed his growth since he launched his business in 2017, and he shares a lot of actionable advice based on what has worked for his business. Check it out.
Are you looking for new ways to make your sales grow? You've tried other podcasts, but they don't seem to know. Harvest the growth potential of your product or service as we share stories and strategies that'll make your competitors nervous. Now, here's the host of the Harvest Growth Podcast, John LeClaire.
Welcome back to the show. I'm excited to be speaking with Justin Gardner. He's the founder of Active Skin Repair. You can check them out at activeskinrepair.com. They're big on Amazon as well if you want to search there. We're going to dive into what the product is and some really interesting stories behind the building of the business. But first of all, Justin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John.
I appreciate you taking time today because you do have a really fascinating story I want to share with our audience. Before we get into sort of the business side of it, the background story, let's talk about the product. So what is Active Skin Repair?
So Active Skin Repair, the active ingredient in the product is a molecule called hypochlorous acid. And hypochlorous acid is the same molecule that your white blood cells produce. So if you get cut, scraped, any type of skin damage, even if it's an inflammatory like a sunburn or a bug bite, your body's natural immune response is to send white blood cells to that injury. And inside those white blood cells is a molecule called hypochlorous acid. And that's what's in our product. So what we're able to do is replicate that same immune response, and you're able to apply topically the way that your body's working internally. And it does three major things. It's a really powerful antimicrobial. So it's your body's natural mechanism to fight off foreign pathogens. So it kills bacteria, viruses, and fungi. So you have a really powerful antimicrobial. It also helps reduce that inflammatory effect from that injury. And so what you're able to do is help with inflammation. So inflammation could be things as simple as sunburns and bug bites, like I had said. And it also helps speed up that natural healing process. What's really cool about it too is because it's innate to your immune system, there's no toxicity to it. There's no allergic reactions. You can spray it around your eyes, ears, mouth. And we're able to replicate that molecule by electrolyzing salt and water. So you're using natural ingredients, really simple ingredients to, again, get to that really powerful molecule.
I think there are some like antimicrobial cleaning products that uses it something because I know they electrify water and salt. Is that a similar process? Are you familiar with those as well?
Sure. Yeah, hypochlorous, it's been around for a while too. The molecule is nothing new. We've known about the molecule. It's what the real innovation has been, especially from a human health side, is being able to stabilize it and get it into a very small pH window, and so that it's human friendly. So the hypochlorous acid works great as a disinfectant, just kind of a different process on how you'd manufacture it in different regulatory environment. That's going to be EPA, and what we do is FDA, but same kind of both. Because it's an antimicrobial, it works great as a non-toxic cleaning agent and gets used quite a bit, both in the consumer household side, but also in the hospital systems and in agricultural and food and a whole bunch of different areas.
Got it. So let's talk about the two different main types of products you've got. It's the hydrogel and then the spray. Is there any difference between the two? So as consumers look at these, is it just if you prefer a topical gel you're rubbing in versus spraying on? But from an efficacy standpoint or a preferred usage standpoint, is there a difference?
It's a great question, and we get it all the time. The active ingredient, hypochlorous acid, in both of them. So that molecule that I just spoke about and the way the molecule works, same for the liquid and the hydrogel. The liquid's nice because you kind of have a light mist that's easy to just kind of spray. So I use the spray if you're getting out. If let's say you try not to get too much sun, but you get too much sun. It's a summer day, maybe you're out in the ocean and you get too much sun. It works great just to spray down to help take down that inflammation from too much sun. It also works great if you're we use it on my daughter's diaper rash all the time. We have a baby spray as well that we market. And that's great if you don't want to necessarily touch where that rash is because it's sensitive. So it's great to be able to spray there. The hydrogel is more akin to like what we know as an ointment. It would be more like a Neosporin. We get usages. Some people like the hydrogel over the liquid. Some people like the liquid. We tend to sell more of the liquid spray. Just that tends to be a more consumer preference. I like the hydrogel specifically if I've gotten a cut or a scrape, especially if I'm going to put a bandage around it. So I'll apply it like I would a Neosporin, where you'll put it on and then be able to wrap a bandage or a Band-Aid around it.
Got it. And you mentioned diaper rash. What are some of the other most common uses for either the spray or the gel that you find your consumers are buying the product for?
It's every day. It's majority in hypochlorous acid is now becoming a very trending ingredient, especially in the cosmetic space. So a lot of people are using it for a daily facial post-workout, helps prevent acne. Acne's P. acne, it's a bacteria, and it works really well to help around cosmetic concerns. Most of our customers, especially because we are actually regulated as an FDA medical device, a 510K medical device, we have approval to use in open skin, as opposed to the cosmetics brands who are just cosmetic. They don't have that indication where we do. So a lot of people are using on cuts and scrapes, especially with little kids. If you have little kids, you just know they're prone to lots of skin issues, which include, falling down and getting a little cut or scrape. One of the great things about our product too is it doesn't have any sting. So I'm sure we all remember being kids when your parents would put alcohol or backcitration on and that had that terrible stinging feel. Here you're getting to kill all that bacteria with the same. Hypochlorous acid is actually 80 times as powerful as bleach. So you get this really, again, powerful antimicrobial, antibacterial, but none of the sting. So it works great, cut scrapes, because it works also really well on things like atopic dermatitis issues like eczema, where when somebody who might have eczema has a flare-up, it works really well on where those skin irritations are happening from the eczema. So we get a lot of uses around those type of conditions, and we also have the seal of approval from the National Eczema Association.
I imagine you mentioned how you got FDA approval on this, which is probably a lot of our listeners are thinking, man, how do you do that without having a massive budget, being part of a big pharmaceutical or major brand, et cetera, in the early days, right? As you were growing this business. So how did you accomplish that? How did you get the FDA license for this in the early days?
And so there's different types of FDA approvals, clearances. We're regulated as a 510K medical device. So it's a clearance as opposed to drug approval that you would get on like a big pharmaceutical that probably costs $50 million plus to get. You have to do controlled randomized studies for those drug approvals, where the 510K approval is a little bit easier and more seamless to get through. The way, though, that kind of comes back to my history in finding how the molecule worked. Previous to running Active Skin Repair, I owned a medical marketing agency, and we were doing products, regenerative medicine products, so really expensive dermal engineered tissues that were being used in surgical procedures. And while I was running that agency, I got introduced from a medical device company that had the hyperchlorous technology to help launch that into the hospital space, and just really was blown away by the science and the efficacy of the product, the versatility of it, the fact that that checked all these boxes. And I just started using it myself, watched my friends and family use it, and said, God, there's a real opportunity here for over the counter. And from working with the medical device company, I knew that they had the OTC FDA clearance, but they were just focused in the hospital side. That they wanted to be in a more professional focus physician brand. And so I worked with them to leverage their FDA clearance for over the counter and everything they had gone through to do a partnership there. And we eventually, after a few years of running that, partnered up with them and now are fully part of that medical device company. So we fall under their umbrella.
Got it. Got it. So just to clarify, are they still running the hospital side of the business, and you've got yours separate that's more the consumer side of the business?
And now that I'm part of their team, they do. They still sell it into the hospital side of things. In fact, we use the same manufacturing process facility. Everything is the same for the hospital side as well. So we go through all of that rigor and safety testing, efficacy testing. We know every lot that we produce goes through, everything's manufactured in an ISO certified clean room here in California. We go through and we test every lot that we produce. So we have full traceability. We know that it's going to be killing the bacteria that we say it kills. We're going to know that it's non-toxic and safe to use. So a lot of that really robust regulatory oversight that goes into the professional hospital version goes into our over-the-counter. And now that I'm part of that team as well in-house, I oversee all the hospital marketing as well. So I oversee both the professional and the consumer side.
Very cool. I think it's an interesting thing to think about from an audience perspective, whether you're looking for, an FDA licensed product, whatever it might be. But there's a lot of opportunity out there with companies that may focus in one channel or one direction, and they're open to doing license deals or partnerships, or there's a lot of different ways to do it, but open to somebody else helping them grow their business outside of what their expertise lies in. So I think this is one great example for hopefully getting the juices flowing with a lot of our audience, thinking about, okay, what might be the next opportunity to partner with a company that has a proven product, but they just don't want to focus in what you might be good at, right? So your particular expertise. Yours is really interesting. Of course, you started that way and then came back in and kind of now run both sides of the equation. But of course, it started off by being a little bit siloed and separated. So today on the consumer side, so a lot of our audience, that's where their interests and expertise lie. Let's talk about that a little bit further. So you've got a business that is now grown to an 8-figure business, phenomenal growth and success behind this. On a lot of it on direct to consumer. I understand almost all the business today is direct to consumer. Again, the business to consumer side. Is that correct?
It is, yeah. We're probably over 95% either through Amazon or through our website, through those two main channels. We're on Target.com and Walmart.com, but the main bulk of everything is the behemoth of Amazon, and then also pushing direct to consumer through our website. We do sell in retail. In fact, when I initially started the business, I thought retail would be 80% of our business, at least, probably maybe even by this period in the life cycle of our company would be 90%. So I was surprised to go such a different route than we did. But it's been very deliberate, and we can talk about it, but it's a newer technology that most people don't know. A lot of versatility. We joke, we call it the WD-40 of skin repair, just because of how many things it works for. But it's also tough to be able to communicate the science and all the ways that it works on shelf at retail. So that's why the digital, having ability to kind of educate consumers in a more robust way than just what you have on the top of a package or in front of a package has been really beneficial, and why we've decided to focus online.
And you've grown this. I mean, it's a multi-million dollar business. It's been very successful and grown fast. It's relatively new business as well. What has been the strategy or technique that has worked the best to really help you grow?
So I think for us, when we started in 2017. We started a lot in athletics, outdoor sports. We thought that would be an area of high propensity of skin damage. It was authentic to me being an outdoor athlete, and just thought that would be a great area. And it was. We built a really nice cult following, but the market wasn't huge. It was kind of a slower churn, and where we really figured out that there is such a high need is with moms and using it on children. And when we started to figure out that was our consumer, that woman was our consumer, really understanding her, understanding who she was and what value, what she really saw was valuable in a product like ours. And we now call her, and now our demographic is 93% female or more. We are in that window of 30 to 45 years old, generally with 1+ kids. It's a mom buying for their household. And even more specifically, it's a mom, we call her the Whole Foods mom. It's a mom that really values organic, natural ingredients, are looking, and there's such a wave right now, movement to do non-toxic swaps. And that was where we really found and saw that flywheel really start to pick up for us, is when we were able to figure out who that customer was and what she valued in that non-toxic aspect of our product, especially when you look at products like Neosporin. You're looking at synthetic antibiotics, you're looking at allergic reactions in a lot of people, you're looking at petroleum-based. It was a pretty easy swap for that mom to make to move to a non-toxic product like ours. So that understanding, to answer your question, understanding that customer really deeply and what she valued was where we really have started to see that momentum grow.
Yeah. And then from there, once you really understood who your customer is, what they care about, how to talk to them, you, as I understand it, got really heavily into influencers, and that really has driven the success of your business. And the key with influencers, I think you'd probably echo this, is finding, once you know your audience, right? Then you know what influencers to work with. No product can be sold by everybody, right? To everything kind of thing, from everybody to everybody. You got to find your messaging, you got to find your right market, your right audience. And once you have that, now it's easy to find the right influencers that really are in touch with your user base or your customers. How has it changed over the years with influencers? Because you've been doing that since the early days, had a lot of success, but how is it different today than it was maybe several years ago?
Oh, it's grown so much from when we started. We started influencer. I mean, we've always, since the beginning of the company, working with athletes, we were always doing influencer marketing to some extent. It was around 2019 that we always knew there was a word of mouth component to our product. So the idea of influencer marketing just always seemed like a good fit for us. But it was around 2019 that we started to more robustly send out a bunch of product to influencers saying, hey, we think you'd be a great fit. Here's some information around our products. And then we started to dabble in paying some influencers, setting up affiliate programs, and it would pretty quickly became clear on the ones that worked and the ones that didn't work. And what's so great about influencer marketing is, especially when we focus on Instagram stories, and so with a swipe up, you're then pushing somebody to our shop page, and you're able to auto-populate that coupon code. Well, now I can run attribution and see exactly, what did that net out? And what we found was it wasn't the athletes. It wasn't, we tried a lot around fitness, again, hitting that female demographic. That didn't work that well. It was the non-toxic influencers, people who had a lot of product knowledge and expertise in non-toxic products, was the one that really just gained traction. So once we started to understand that, and then we started to understand where there were correlations to, we also do really well in DIY. So people who are teaching other women how to do things around the house tend to convert really well. Healthy cooking was another one. People who are doing influences around how to do meal prep and healthy meal prep also worked well. So it was really trialing a lot of things and just keep learning, and what was translating.
I think it's interesting, and you've told me before, you spend over $1 million a year on influencers, which is phenomenal. Just for audience to break that down, I'm sure you can all do the math, right? But that's like $100,000 a month on influencers, and it works. And I hear so many times as I talk to people like, oh, we've tried this or that, whether it's influencers or anything else, any kind of a marketing strategy, and they give up maybe too early, right? And I think what the nugget I'm getting from you, and I think what's worked really well for your business is, again, understanding your consumer, understanding the messaging that they need to hear. It's not just about having a pretty face, right? Or a big following, but it's about having the right type of following that would care about your product, right? So being a healthy product, right? The Whole Foods mom, I think, as you described. And like, once you really understand who they are and what they want to hear, then getting the right type of influencers. And that really works with any type of marketing strategies, whether it's influencers or, paid media on digital platforms, whatever it might be, right? It's an important thing to really understand is, okay, who is my audience? And then how is the best way to really reach out and connect with them? Now, when you pay them, what is today, I guess, the most common way? I know in the early days, everything used to be commission based, right? So you pay on success. How has that changed today in terms of how do you pay influencers today?
Yeah, if we go back to 2018, 2019, most of ours were affiliate. And we were lucky to be kind of early in influencer marketing where, like you said, affiliate, but a lot of these influencers were very happy to do affiliate-based agreements. Some of them would just, do it for free. And then even the ones that were paid, we were generally working with the influencer directly. How that's changed today, now going into 2025, most of them have agents. Most of them have fees associated with it. Some of them will do. I mean, we still have some great affiliates that probably make more in an affiliate commission than they would on a rate. They feel very solid with what they can produce, and those relationships work great. Some are mixed. They'll do affiliate and a fee plus a commission on that. And then some are just fees. And so we're open to all of them. The fee structure is, obviously has the highest risk. If it's just straight affiliate, there's just not much downside. So we're actually trying to grow that out in a more micro influencer manner this year. And then to how we think about it too is, you talked, John, a little bit about giving up maybe a little too soon. I think too, it's like, if you look at investing, you wouldn't want to put all your money in one or two, companies or stocks. You want to be able to diversify that. And I kind of look at those investment in influencer marketing as an investment portfolio. I'm going to bet on, let's say, 30 influencers in a month. There's probably some heavier bets in there that I've done a lot of due diligence on and trying to take smart bets. There's some that we know just produce every time. So I'm going to rebook the people that we know are going to work. And then I'm going to take a bet on some people that we don't know about. Some have been unicorns, a lot have flopped. And usually you just hope the unicorns pay for the flops.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah. And it's a numbers game at the end of the day.
It's a numbers game. And as well, I mean, we are way, way more sophisticated these days in placing those bets or investments, however you want to look at it. But I don't care. As much as we know, we think somebody's going to, like, her followers, she's got great engagement, her followers are spot on, and it just doesn't have any type of ROI to it. And you just kind of scratch your head and say, that just it's part of the game. Like, you're not going to win them all.
And I would add to that, I think that as we talk about influencers, spreading between them, so you're not stuck with just a single influencer that, something changes. It's like having a host back in the day. I think of the ShamWow guy that helped drive, he owned most of his products that he launched, but he licensed one off and then he had some legal trouble he went into and it kind of sank that business entirely. So just a quick history lesson on that without diving too deep. But it's so important to not put all your eggs in one basket, right? Whether that's one influencer or one marketing strategy, right? It's even about, okay, how do I take it with influencers and then also explore other platforms like running, ads on Amazon, for example, and paid media and other platforms as the world shifts, being ready for sort of what's next and really spreading around your risk, waiting for, sometimes it's a person that might be an influencer that is the unicorn you're talking about, right? And sometimes it's a marketing channel that might be the new unicorn, the new opportunity that really jumps out for your brand.
And one more thing, John, to put to that we really learned too, especially the influencers that are good, they know how to they know their followers really well. They're marketers at heart, right? Like, so they know their followers and they know the messaging. So one thing we learned at the beginning was we didn't want to script what they were saying. In fact, generally, and so at the beginning, I used to get on the call with all the influencers and explain the science. We give them all the talking points, and they end up just reciting the talking points because they think that's what you wanted, as opposed to. And we learned very quickly that actually it was better that I didn't get on the call. It was better that I didn't get, because you can go deep on the science here. We have a lot of clinical articles, a lot around the science, but that's sometimes a little tough for consumers to digest. They just want the quick top line bullet points. And if an influencer that they really trust is recommending the product, a lot of times that's good enough for them. So what we usually do is just get them product, say, listen, you've got kids. Here's some great areas to try it out on. Just make sure you document any before and afters if you can. Those work great. And we just give them some best practices, but really let them figure out the messaging that they think is going to communicate best get communicated to their followers, and kind of step away from that. And again, the really good influencers will know a way to kind of communicate that.
Yeah, and they know their audience well, right? So their audience, if you try to change the way that they talk, or the points that are important, they're not going to be themselves, right? It may look really good. I found that too, and sometimes the video looks fantastic because they're kind of saying what I would say, what I think they should say, but it doesn't work as well as if they just spoke in their own words in a way that their own audience that they've cultivated would understand well.
Yeah, and I think too. I mean, I can always tell when I see big brands that are like not 8-figure, but like 10-figure, 11-figure brands with big marketing agents. And you can just tell that they've been kind of scripted out. The agency said, here's exactly what you want to say. It just doesn't come off authentic. It just sounds like they're reading a commercial for money, where we really, truly believe in our product. We want them. The first thing that we're going to say is like, until you try it and use it and believe in it, if you haven't tried the product, we don't want you to post, first of all, because we really want you to believe in the product. That authenticity is key to the success of a campaign. So if you don't have that authenticity, let's not waste our time. And so really getting that product into their hands and then stepping away from it. And we do use agencies to help identify influencers, but we still want that influencer to feel a connection with our brand and who we are. So we make sure that as a founder of the company that I try and have access to them. And then my colleague also really making sure that they feel a direct connection to the brand and to the company as well.
Love it. Well, Justin, are there any resources that you'd recommend that have been really helpful to you in your business journey?
I would say, as an entrepreneur, I love podcasts. So I love to hear other stories of entrepreneurs. I think there's just so much to be learned. And also, especially at the beginning phases when times are tough, it's so good to hear like somebody who's been successful, to know that they went through those struggles as well. I mean, a lot of it in entrepreneurship to me is just perseverance, staying alive, right? Staying alive long enough. If you have a good product, just stay alive long enough till, enough people hear about it. And so I've always found those motivating and great in terms of being a great resource to learning, and also kind of that motivation that you need as an entrepreneur.
I love that. And I echo that, frankly. I started this podcast now 5 years ago because I'm a big consumer of podcasts. I still am. I learn a lot from them. It's just great to hear real stories in a longer format where you can get to know founders of companies and hear what they went through. Sometimes it's the successes that help me. And as you alluded to, sometimes it's the failures that help me, right? Just seeing that somebody made it through a hard time, and really everybody has those, right? Every success, the biggest successes out there. We've all read the biographies of, Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and the others. They had their times that they had to get through that were the bigger the success, sometimes the bigger the trials and struggles that they went through to get there.
And so to that too, we're, thinking through that answer too, this podcast has been great. I'm based here in San Diego, and there's a group called SDSI in San Diego, and it's San Diego Sports Innovators, and it's an incubator group. They do accelerator programs that help entrepreneurs bring products to market. I went through their accelerator program, and it is a great network of entrepreneurs. Like, we have Sunbum here, so Sunbum's part of this entrepreneur group. A lot of brands that have come from nothing and built really substantial businesses, and just those networking and having other founders, entrepreneurs to bounce ideas off of, to learn. There's somebody told me the best, if you're trying to go get a place, the best thing to do is ask somebody who's on their way back. And I feel like going and talking to people who've had success, who have built brands, especially for me, consumer packaged goods was a whole new space. I had come from marketing products into the hospital space to physicians. So I had a lot to learn. And I think those entrepreneur groups, podcasts, and then the last one I have a colleague who uses Slack groups of other marketers who are on those groups, and she has had so many great connections to other products, and they go back and forth on what influencers are working for them, what podcasts. They'll share a lot of best tips, and that's how we find a lot of our great influencers and podcasts is through other marketing directors who are part of these groups and willing to share.
Well, this has been a lot of fun and lots of great advice you've given, Justin, on the way too. I'm sure our audience is going to rewind and listen to some of this a few times, frankly, because you shared a lot. So I really thank you for giving us a peek behind the curtain to see how you've built such a successful business over these years. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think could be helpful for our audience?
I'd just say if any of your audience has any questions, if there's anything that they have specific, it's Justin at bldgactive.com. I'm always happy to answer any questions and be a resource, especially if you're coming into the health and wellness CPG space.
That's kind of you. I do encourage our audience also check out Justin's website, bldgactive.com. You can check out the products on Amazon as well, but bldgactive.com is a great place to go to get some more resources on this great business that Justin has been able to build. Also, for our audience, did you know you can meet with a member of my team absolutely free for a 30-minute strategy consultation? We've launched and grown hundreds of products since 2007 and learned some of our strategies while growing OxyClean back in the Billy Mays days. We're here to help. So please go to harvestgrowth.com and set up a call if you'd like to discuss further.